Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School District of Mystery Lake. This evening, we are having our public budget presentation for our 2024-2025 school year. My name is Kelly Knott. I'm the Secretary Treasurer here at the School Division and look after the finances. I'd like to start with our Treaty 5 acknowledgement. We acknowledge we are signatories of Treaty 5 and that we reside in the traditional territory of the Nisishiwayasik Cree Nation. The School District of Mystery Lake is located in the community of Thompson in the province of Manitoba. Manitoba is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Nihitho, Innu, Denesulin, Métis, Inuit, Anisinu, Anishinaabe, and Dakota Oye nations. The School District of Mystery Lake remains committed to honoring treaties in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. We are all treaty people. Tonight, I encourage your participation. Questions are very much welcomed throughout the presentation, as well as there will be opportunity to ask at the end. Questions from online viewers can be sent to lhenderson@mysterynet.mb.ca. Thank you very much, Paul, for allowing those online to participate this evening as well. Later on, the presentation will be available on our website. Our school district website is mysterynet.mb.ca. Superintendent Henderson will be assisting tonight to help monitor for any questions that may be coming in. For tonight's agenda, we're going to be looking at the provincial funding announcement that has come forward, our district enrollments, the tax effects on our community, as well as planned expenditures and surplus. Our mission and vision, which has been recently visited by the Board of Trustees this past school year, is the School District of Mystery Lake will ignite each learner's potential in a safe and inclusive environment that nurtures, celebrates, and inspires lifelong learning through a diversity of educational experiences. Every student matters, every moment counts, for the learners of today to be the leaders of tomorrow. And our motto continues to be success for all. We'll begin by looking at our revenue for 2024-2025. On February 1st, the provincial funding was announced for the upcoming school year, and it was really good news for us. 80% of our revenue comes from the province, so all increases for our general operating helps us to manage inflation. While our provincial support will be increasing 7.9% from the current year, the largest adjustment we're seeing is in the 1.7 million additional general operating support and 1.15 million specific to nutrition programming. While it's great to note the 7.9% increase in revenue, we also have to remain mindful of our challenges that we have within our division. We continue to see resourcing challenges. They relate to recruitment, retention, as well as the training and the proper use of specified materials. We are challenged quite often for space. Our classrooms were built with specific ideas in mind, and now as we introduce community school concepts and different behavioral classrooms and what have you, it does put the space at a premium. And always we are seeing more and more needs within our population that we have to deliver, and that requires a lot of specialized assessments and additional time. Our upcoming funding, as it's compared to this current year, we are seeing 34.9 million in total provincial funding coming through. The largest this is over compared to this current year of 33.4 million. The largest increase, as you can see, is in our equalization formula that's coming from the province, and it is going up to $21.1 million. We have various other grants from the province bringing our total value to 39.5 million, up from 36.6 this year, the 7.9% increase. The largest impact for the other additional provincial support is again coming from the nutrition funding line, and I have another slide related specific to this initiative. What we're seeing within the equalization calculation, we are, as a district, we are limited in size for our taxation pool. We are limited in the amount that we can collect from taxpayers, and we rely on provincial funding. In other areas that have a larger tax base, you have provincial funding and you have your taxes. All things being equal, us here in the north, especially in our division, we do not have as much opportunity to receive in taxes. In order to make it an equitable and equal funding for all throughout the province provides us with equalization that offsets our inability to get more taxes. That equalization helps to make it a more 50-50 split between provincial funding and taxation. Equalization, they have changed their calculation this coming year, and that has resulted in the larger change. Our provincial funding has always been driven by our student population. Our September 30th bums in seats has always been our driving force, and there will be no surprises that there's all kinds of activities on that day and pizza parties and all kinds of stuff to get the kids into school. Over the previous 3 years, the province has been trying to offset the post-pandemic effects of COVID and been providing us adjusted funding. While we did see our funding drop about 200 students after we returned from the pandemic, the province continued to support an adjusted funding model. And the blue indicates where you can see it even over 21-22 through 23-24. We were funded on an adjusted model of 2950 students. This current year, they are transitioning us back to the student population actual count. So this year we are being funded on 2,773 students. It will not be on an adjusted value. I believe this transition year is going to be helping us as we adjust into a new funding formula model in the future and getting us back into going through our enrollment accounts. So looking at we have our enrollment population of 2,912 students through the full division. We are actually being funded on 2,773, and that's what we refer to as our eligible enrollment. The province does not fully fund kindergarten students. Kindergartens are funded as a 0.5 student. So I may have 60 students in kindergarten, but we get funding for 30. It's always divided by half. Even if the division provides full-day kindergarten, the province does not recognize that. That's additional money that will come from the division. So we have our overall enrollment of 2,912. That is reduced by our kindergarten, half of our kindergarten population, and our non-supportable and adult students. The non-supportable students that the province doesn't provide funding for, this would be students that are coming in from First Nations that fall under the federal funding structure, and their home communities and the First Nations support directly their education. So while we have seen declining enrollment from our adjusted number, the province has taken into consideration offsetting the enrollment declines. So to help offset it, there has been that a change to equalization for the interim, that we've seen the dollar effects it's up 2.6 million. Additional operating support is up 2.1 million, and additional funds for special needs is 292,000. The equalization factor is the biggest change that's driven the $2.6 million. Equalization, as we referred to earlier, is trying to make tax, property tax and school tax equal throughout the province. When a school division has provincial funds and they have city municipal taxes, the city municipal taxes are referred to as unfunded portion. So if I have my $10 of city tax, that's unfunded. The equalization calculation used to take 66% of the unfunded and give it to us to help bring us our tax more. The big change in the calculation now is that factor has gone up from 66% to 80%. So they're taking a look at our unfunded and giving us 80% within equalization. I believe that's to just assist with the transition period as we see what next year will bring, but that is the main force behind equalization. We have to stay tuned. We know changes are coming, but we have not seen the full funding model yet. They have identified that it will be rolled out in 2025. So looking at our local taxes, the difference between the funding that we do receive from the province and the district budget is raised through our special levy. A mill rate is the amount of tax that we are able to raise for each dollar of assessed value of your property. The school district mill rate uses 45% of your property value. So that's where the term portion school assessment comes from. We are doing our school assessment on a portion of your property tax, of your property value. 1 mill will raise $1 on $1,000 of assessment. So it was very important for our trustees to ensure that the message going out into the community regarding school taxes and how it relates to the actual city tax invoice that individuals are getting, that the school division taxes have actually been very considerate with all things being looked at, including the rate of inflation. The school divisions this most recent year have been given the ability to increase our special levy or our tax request for this coming school year. Our plan right now does include $9.1 million to come from the City of Thompson taxpayers. That's a 3% increase. Since 2021, that equates to an overall increase of 2.98%. When we look at the rate of inflation since 2021, you can see the bars in red are the rate of inflation. The inflation in 2021, during that funding announcement, the province advised that they did not want us to increase any taxes, and they would offset the increase with an alternative grant called the Property Tax Offset Grant. So we utilized that, and we did not make any increases to our taxes. The next 2 years, our request for taxes, we were not allowed to. School divisions were told that there would be a freeze on school taxes. And in those years, we've seen 3.5% and 7.9% of inflation. This upcoming year, they allowed taxes to be increased at a reasonable rate. Working through our numbers and looking through our funding announcement, we were able to come up with a tax rate that is still below our inflation rate of 3.5%. So we are requesting a 3%. But I think overall this picture, when we see how we are managing inflation, the increases that perhaps we're seeing on tax bills as a community, generally people will direct it to the schools, but I truly do not believe that is where the case is. We do have historical properties that we have tracked for multiple years. These roll numbers are actual residents within the city of Thompson that I believe started tracking in the early 80s. If we look at the school property taxes for these properties from 2019 to 2024, the difference between the properties are quite nominal when we consider overall the rates of inflation that we are dealing with. We have 5 years of inflation. The school taxes have pretty much remained fairly stable and consistent, and we are not seeing any declining in our staffing.
Kelly, do we have some questions at the end?
Or you can ask now as well. We do have questions at the end.
You just said no decline in staff. Is that for next year? Or are you just talking about?
In general, we haven't seen declining, but I have another slide coming up shortly, and we are seeing an increase in staffing for next year.
Excellent. Okay, good.
Stay tuned.
That's my question.
So when we talk about 7.9% of an increase being very good news, the largest portion of our pie there in the darkness is our provincial funding, and that is truly what is being increased. Our provincial funding coming from the Department of Education, $34.7 million. We have $6.7 million coming from other departments, such as Department of Justice, Department of Families for various initiatives. An example would be the Lighthouse program. So $41.4 million of our revenue, 82% is coming from provincial funding. The school district is the second highest provincially funded school district in the province.
Is Frontier the other one?
Frontier has very little. Kelsey is the highest. Frontier is mostly federally funded. They have perhaps, I believe it's less than 5% of provincial funding. The other revenue that we see of $772,000, that is, as if you recall, the offset of our non-supportable students. That mostly is our First Nations tuitions that we collect. Property taxation is our city tax request, and it will be $8.2 million, or 16% of our revenue. So where we look at our property taxation versus our provincial funding, it's not an equal playing field. The equalization component of our provincial funding is intended to actually increase the portion of property taxation so that it becomes more equal throughout the province. So if we want to look at where our dollars are going, we feel it's very important to ensure that we have strong accountability and transparency with our public. For the upcoming year's expenses, again, we're back into the pies, but our regular instructional is the majority, the greatest lion's share of where our dollars are going. We have regular instruction of $28,596,000, student support services, $10 million, and instructional and pupil support services, what we also curriculum development in that area, is $1.9 million. The support side of our budget, the divisional administration, is $2.04 million, or 4% of our budget. Within our region located in the north, we are allowed up to 4.25% of the budget as directed by the province. That's our northern rate, so we are well below that. We have transportation of $499,000. Now, this transportation, we receive approximately $75,000 a year from the province for provincial transportation funding, so this transportation component pretty much comes out of our general taxation levy from the city of Thompson. We have our operations and maintenance budget of $6.29 million, and the fiscal amount as it relates to payroll tax is very nominal at $800,000. So again, the lion's share of our funding is all going into the classrooms. If we want to compare our budget for next year over this coming year. Our salaries are increasing $2.3 million, going to $37.4 million, up from 35. The employee benefits, as associated with salaries, are going up $500,000, up to $5.1 million. Services, we're seeing fairly stable, $4,138,000 versus $4,071,000. Supplies, material, and equipment, we are seeing an increase of $854,000 in that area. We do have some larger contractual arrangements that have some travel components built into them, but we're also seeing large insurance rate increases as well, so that's driving the majority of that. So our supplies, maintenance, and equipment for next year will be $2,595,000. We're seeing a decline in interest in bank charges this coming year. In this current year, we had, as everyone's aware, we have quite a large project ongoing at Artie Parker Collegiate. When we were preparing this current year's budget, it was uncertain how the project, which is funded by the province, how the project was going to flow the funds to us. And we were uncertain if we were going to have to use a line of credit or what have you to fund some of the progress payments. We have a very good system in place for the flow of the capital dollars, so we have not had to utilize any of interest payments to satisfy that debt. And we'll see our payroll tax going up of approximately $52,000 next year, and again, that's directly related to our increases in salaries. Overall, this coming year, we are looking at 439 staff. 439.5 full-time equivalents. That's up from the current year plan of 427.
So for the teachers, principals, and clinicians, that's an increase of 5, right?
No, that's an increase of 1.
1?
Yeah, up. That's one additional position from plan.
Okay.
There's an additional 10 educational assistants.
Okay.
And an additional speech language educational assistant as well.
That's still good news. Thank you.
So we're looking at additions to the budget. There's $1.156 million of nutrition funding. It has been announced by the province, and we have guidelines that this will not replace existing practices and programs. That money is intended to build on existing programs and to use dollars to go towards purchase of equipment, staff, and supplies to expand the programs. We have $490,000 included for alternative programming. Included in that is Youth at Risk for junior high. We are seeing many students in grades 7 and 8 who may not have had as much success. So I believe the intent of this program will be to help assist credit attainment in grade 9 to ensure greater success at the high school level. We also are looking at high school level off-site, and we are looking for additional staffing. Mental health and wellness is a position that the intent is to help develop and oversee the rollout of health-based curriculum. The programming is intended to provide consistency across the schools and coordinate data for the provincial reporting related to all of the mental health and well-being strategies.
So that, if I could just ask,
Mm-hmm.
so that mental health and wellness is a supervisory role to look at what's going on, but are there any additional staff that are associated with that?
I believe this will be an existing position that will oversee strategies that are currently in various silos throughout the division. So they will come together to bring an encompassing okay.
Somebody say that we in that mental health and well-being, there's a lot of pressure being put on at the school level, but we need some consistency throughout. So we need somebody who's going to be able to hit the ground running to be able to provide programming and supports for our schools and teachers and students.
Okay, so what are you talking about there?
it'll be something that'll work out of this office, and they'll oversee that, because there is a lot of responsibility on providing programming, and I know that all the schools are providing programming, but we need to be able to support that, and also the province is requiring that we start collecting some data, so that person will also be responsible for that position.
Okay, so there'll be a person that's coordinating those things.
So
And
it,
doing training, like there'll be that person who's going to provide some of that.
yeah, it's for the students' health and wellness and how to make healthy lifestyle choices.
Okay, so that's more of a curricular.
It's more programming for the schools, for students. So, you know, in some of the schools there's sources of strength, in some of the schools there might be line share. Everybody's doing something, so we want to be able to have somebody come in who can oversee what the district is doing.
In those.
Yeah, in that capacity.
Okay, and thanks for inviting me.
Yep.
I-
Thank
I don't know if this is the, you said questions.
Absolutely, all the way
I
through.
guess, speaking to that, I was just wondering about our clinical services that have certainly not
We-
increased for a long time.
We have been several recruiting strategies. We're actively seeking still speech-language pathology or pathologists. We have not been able to secure any individuals to come north at this time. The funds still remain in the budget,
Yeah, that's
and
what-
should
so
we
the
not, yeah,
budgets are there for how many speech and language pathologists?
there's 2 positions.
So there's a budget for 2.
Yes, and we've been operating with 1 speech language for several, maybe 3-4 years already. And when we identify as we're starting the year, if we don't have a full staff complement, then we look at alternating contract services through the province. So what we have found, a good segue into, we're adding a speech language EA. We are, the student services area is working with the province, looking at services developing through a Zoom model to some extent, and we need additional speech language EAs to help assist through that, through the virtual platform. So it's to help alleviate and get through some more of the backlog in that area. So we have added a speech language educational assistant as well. We have included in the plan as well an additional 10 EAs from the current complement that we have. We have identified that there is a great need, but we also have to remember or balance this with, we are struggling on recruiting strategies as well. So we could put 25 EAs in the plan, but if I can't recruit and secure those positions, our classrooms are still sitting under-resourced. So we are trying to balance what we can, but we do recognize we need more EAs, and ideally, when we have a successful recruitment strategy and are able to retain some more, that our numbers will be able to increase, which goes to classroom atmospheres and health and safety issues and student wellness and student success. They're a very critical piece for
And
us.
additional teaching position would just be where the need is.
Yeah. So we have also entrenched in the plan for this coming year our district media position. We have a very hardworking Paul with us at all of our events that's helping get our word out and spread the good news of all the stuff that's going on in our district. So we do have that included in our upcoming budget as well.
Which part of the budget is that?
That comes into the divisional administration budget. It's in overhead.
Follow up to that, we're talking about speech and language pathologists. So you're going to attempt to staff those 2 positions, keeping in mind, I've been here on that, we did have 3 at one time, when things were changing. I guess my question comes to psychological services, because we hear a lot of issues out in the province talking about the lack of mental health services and so forth. You don't have any plans for increasing anything in that area?
At this time, we haven't solid recruitment for an additional teaching staff position, but we do have within the plan contracted services, the model that we've been following for the last few years.
No attempt to
Recruit,
have more people providing psychological services.
not through recruited staff through the district. We're having more success, we're finding, through contract services. It's unfortunate, but we're really struggling to bring the specialized positions to the north. So we have been able to put through many student files through the contracted service model at this time, so that's what we have built in right now.
And that's funded through what? The contracts you give out, how are they funded?
Do the special service.
Through the student services line
And that
item.
comes, is the province giving you?
We don't have any addition, we spend just over $10 million in student services every year for specialized services. Our funding has remained at the same level since 2015. We received $1.94 million in student services special needs funding. Our district puts in an additional $8 million into student services.
And to be contrary here, when I first came here, it's a long time now, I basically had 3 psychologists on staff here. Since I've been here, we've had basically anywhere from 0.75 to 0.88. I've advocated for that, not just now, but in the past as well. And we had, even when there weren't shortages to be had, we didn't actually end up with more positions here.
I think I see that as a challenge all throughout our community. Burntwood Regional is struggling to bring up a full complement of professionals. Here at the school division as well, we're struggling. We do have our board bringing resolutions forward to the March convention for MSBA to develop some type of provincial strategy for clinicians and attraction and retention. So hopefully we can get some advocacy at a provincial level and get some traction that way to
Well, I know
help
some
better
of the
service.
Other districts certainly offered incentives for people to fill clinician positions, which was $20,000 on top of it, for new people coming in to basically.
We're unable to bargain outside of our collective agreement,
Well, I
though.
don't know how they did that. I saw that in like Flint Laundry Improvement and some other places. It was a while back.
Yeah, no, right now, we, all of the bargaining is at the provincial level. It's gone to MTS and MSBA at the provincial bargaining table. Our contracts expired June 30th, 2023, 2022, and we can make no further changes into those agreements. It's at the provincial bargaining
Well,
level.
I'm just saying that they had some incentives to try and recruit people.
Yeah, but
into
so
that.
for us to add recruitment incentives would be considered bargaining outside the collective agreement, so our hands are tied with that.
So with respect to, when was the last time you actively had another site position in your budget? Because you only had,
Since I've been here, there's only been the one position.
yeah, which.
So it's been 10
became
years.
Eight or whatever.
Yeah.
We haven't had.
To add the position, I believe at this time would be futile. Our recruiting is not indicative that we can add the staffing. We have placed in the contracting because we have seen deliverable and results. Until the province comes up with additional strategies of how to recruit into the north and perhaps some partnerships with Northern Region or what have you, that we could perhaps look at expanding further. I could, for us to put in an FTE in the budget,
Then you can't really advertise for that, can you? You can't advertise.
right now, we're
Maybe we'll have
even
a
just,
position, coming up in September. for
we can advertise, if there was interest, we can always go back to the board. Any FTEs that are not included in our budget, we can always go back to the board to request additional consideration. Paul here as an example, we had an FTE, wasn't in our plan, we request permission to utilize some of our undesignated surplus to go towards that. We'll see where that has to land.
Now, you know, being, I follow the Manitoba Association of School Psychologists, with all these listings, people recruiting. Evergreen is, or Evergreen, I should say, Mystery Lake has not been actively recruiting in any way to let people know that there might be a position.
I think we felt very fortunate that we have a .86 position right now.
Yeah.
So being able to
What was
fill,
that either?
well, that's percent, we're at .6. So we're very,
Eight.
oh, sorry,
No,
very fortunate, and we've had these conversations that at this time, there just is nobody out there. So to designate dollars for a position that we're not going to be able to fill is probably not very responsible.
Well, there are certainly all those graduates kept coming out. I mean, I have always advocated that people at Thompson is not a bad place to come to. You have to reflect.
Absolutely,
Other
reach out
places
into
have
your,
recruited for-
reach
I
out
know
into
it's
your
fun.
peer group and let them know, and send your resumes into us, get your names
I know,
in, and
but
we'll
There
approach.
has to be a position there to tell someone, see,
But if we have interest there, we didn't have a media position, but there was definite interest and opportunity, and we were able to seize that. If you see opportunities like that, bring them forward to superintendent, and we can try to agree on.
I don't know everybody who might do this, people outside the province who might look at that as being desirable, but everyone has to, there are things that I've been looking at with the provincial government for decades along this line.
Okay, just in the essence of time, can we continue on?
I'm sorry, I see you shouldn't have invited me.
No, it's very
Well, I
good
mean,
dialogue
it's
and very
important to
informative,
Look at what the possibilities are.
for sure. And like I said, make sure the word is out there, I'll send your names forward, you never know what's gonna pop up.
So you're basically saying if I run into someone, apply there, there's no position, but send your name.
We certainly are good for contract services.
Absolutely.
Those are contract
But it's a
services.
starting point.
Well, it is, but it's a little bit, I mean, from what I, obviously. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm taking up your time. Can I get back to that after if you're done?
Perhaps tomorrow, but not this evening, but,
You're going, go on.
okay, so moving on to our overall upcoming maintenance schedule for 24-25. We're gonna continue with the regular maintenance schedule for all facilities. We do have asphalting planned for Wapanuck, Deerwood, Westwood, and the school board office. At Wapanuck, the asphalting projects will contain the overall loop at the location, as well as the basketball courts. Westwood is looking at having their parking lot completed. The Deerwood School has drainage and basketball courts that are being revisited. And we have a sidewalk replacement due to the water line renewal that has occurred in the area. At the school board office, we have our shops and fleet parking where we've had extensive frost heaving, which is interfering with various drainage in our grounds. And the gravel that we're finding, as we know, it deteriorates rapidly, so the asphalting will help eliminate some of that. We have concrete renewal in the plan for Wapanuck as well as Riverside. At Wapanuck, the concrete is related to the upper level parking lot and the curbing that's required for the drop-off loop. The concrete at Riverside relates to the back of the school property, where we're installing retaining curbs to redirect the draining and prevent groundwater penetration into the building. So there's a bit of activity, all things going. Hopefully Mother Nature as well will cooperate. We have a lot of asphalting that has been piling up. We have asbestos abatement at Artie Parker Collegiate still going on. Gymnasium, we have the gymnasium roof will be refurbished and refreshed, removing some of the known contained asbestos in there and removing it as following the hazardous waste guidelines. And we have one capital project moving forward funded by the province. In September, the expectation is Artie Parker will be completed in their phase 1 of the expansion. And the second project that the province is working on right now is a structural upgrade to the roof itself of Burntwood Elementary School. That project right now is in an investigation and design phase, and that is expected to be completed in 2024. Once that has been solidified, then we will move into the tender phase in 2025, 2026. So we have an operating fund surplus. Our projected for this coming school year of June 30th is $1,621,550. I've been reporting that number pretty consistently at all the budget meetings. No funds are required to balance the budget at this point this year. So we do have our estimated surplus remaining at $1,621,000. That surplus amount seems like quite a large number for us to be sitting on top of, but we have to be prepared for in-year revenue adjustments that may come from the province. We did receive our in-year funding adjustment this year, but it was quite manageable this year. It was less than $70,000. It is still quite a bit, but we were able to manage it from within. In previous years, some of those in-year adjustments have been anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million. So we have to be prepared to have that reduction. And it's not an invoice that the province will give us that we can pay later on. When they announce that there's a funding adjustment for us, they remove that amount off of our upcoming check. So we don't have some money. They take it right away. So that we need that surplus as our cushion. Our surplus, the $1.6 million is 3.23% for June 30th. We are allowed under provincial guidelines to hold 4%. That would be $2 million. So we still have $400,000 of opportunity. The surplus is an emergency source of funding because we don't know what we don't know, and unplanned events do happen. It helps also to stabilize our taxes. We utilized surplus in the previous years when the province had directed us to zero increase in taxes. We had to use some of our surplus to balance our budgets. This year we were allowed to increase taxes and nominally, so we did not have to utilize any of our surplus. To put 1.6 million again into perspective, that still doesn't cover 2 weeks of our salaries. Our monthly expenditures are just over $4 million, so 1.6 million doesn't get us 2 weeks of operating, so it's pretty tight. So I'd like to thank everyone for their interest and their continued support. Thank you very much for attending. Superintendent Henderson, is there any questions from our audience? Okay.
Nicole does. I want to know more about the nutrition funding.
Okay.
I know that we have a lot more than what a lot of the province is getting. So what role the teachers will or won't play in the initiative? So
Can I'll refer you to Superintendent Henderson. We're just in the middle of developing our provincial paper.
So with that, we had to fill in some information about our existing programs. So we sent that in, and the dollars that are coming to us now, we can't supplement the existing programs, so it has to be all new programming. So I met with the principals this morning, and probably by April, we'll start putting our plan in place. There's going to be some schools that are going to have larger nutrition programs, possibly looking at maybe some hot lunches. There's going to be probably some bag lunches, but there's also going to be some spaces that have to be converted to being bigger kitchen spaces. We're looking at our 3 community schools right now because that's where the needs are going to be the highest. So Burntwood would be one of them. Juniper would be one, and Wapnick already has an existing space. So as far as impact programming or responsibilities on teachers, that would probably be a very voluntary piece that would be happening. Teachers would not be expected to be running programs, but I do know that a lot of teachers like to run some of those programs. They collect extracurricular hours and they just build good relationships with kids. So at this time, I don't see it impacting any teaching assignments.
Existing staff.
Yeah.
There is opportunity for additional staffing to go in there as the programs are developed and we overlook at what is all rolling out in the division. That will determine which type of staffing we need.
So we'll do school visits from school to school, just like that. But we don't have the templates. We have a meeting, I think.
On Monday morning. So February 1st, it was announced we're getting
Yeah.
$1.1 million, so it's
It's gonna be a lot
okay
of work.
where there's a lot of effort in behind, even to bring up structural upgrades or bringing kitchens into commercial standards, what have you. You're trying to balance construction timeframes through the summer months, because we just can't empty a school so we can build a kitchen or what have you. We have to ensure that we're following all the Manitoba Health guidelines, and we have all of our existing projects that we're continuing in the summer months as well. So we'll see on Monday, they're gonna roll out what our reporting kind of requirements are needed, the different, what's allowed under all of the different funding, and start developing plans. It's gonna be a very short time frame for us to go from 0 to implementation for September 25, or 24, sorry.
On that, is that so, this isn't just sort of supplementary kind of snacks and things like that, you're actually talking about a hot meal.
Well, of
sufficient-
some, I mean,
So
one point-
wow, that's
It'll be
a,
site by site, what the determination will be. Like there might be a school, I know we have a school where, a small portion of the population has been identified. So that may be a big lunch that Central Liberty with that child. That's what we need to.
oh, okay, that's an option.
Yeah, like you have, it's gonna look different from school to
You guys
school.
within-
And I mean, again, we're looking at equity, which may not always be equal. It will be, we're trying to roll out what is equitable and serve the greatest need. It may not be a bag lunch at every school. It may be rolled into different things. Until we dig down into what is required at each school level and input from all of the school administration and the individuals that are behind it, each strategy will be addressed individually. But it's very, I mean, it's great news for us. I think it's, food insecurity needs to be addressed. Our students can learn when they're not hungry.
And MTS has been advocating for the government for years.
We have, as a board, at the board level, been advocating, and most recently, we've sent letters to the federal government advocating that they entrench in their upcoming budget at the federal level funding for nutrition programs as well. So, and again, I think the way this nutrition funding was announced, I think it is perhaps not fully entrenched forever in our funding, but it's part of a transitional that'll get us into our new funding formula moving forward. We have definitely good news. We are getting the support. It's said time and time again, we are our staff. They do above and beyond, and we couldn't service what we do without all of their efforts, so it's very much appreciated. Anyone else?
Yeah, just on the topic of the food program. At the last school board association in Winnipeg, one of the school chairs in Winnipeg, the Minister of Education was there, and I asked, is this intended to build capital infrastructure? Should we start building kitchens? And he said, no, don't go forward and start building kitchens yet. He said, use it to augment or extend existing programs. Use it. So right now our vision is to extend, but we don't want to start hiring professional staff or building kitchens thinking, oh, this will be extended. I mean, advocating with maybe the federal government will step in and maybe they will provide some funding as well and maybe provide some vision. Right now, I don't think, the provincial government, I get a sense they want to see what the need is over the next couple of years. So I don't think the minister envisions us building kitchens anytime now. So we want to be conservative in our spending. Yeah, I mean, I would love to build a kitchen and just roll out a hot lunch to everyone.
Oh, no,
I mean, that's the dream,
yeah,
right?
when you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
But
that's
as
not
we-
what the minister
It's
wants.
quite a different delivery.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
So, like we said, all this is good news for the district. It's good news for our community. We're looking forward to our partnerships and future success. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and the presentation will be made available on the website shortly as well for everyone to take a look at. Definitely feel free to reach out if walk away and say, oh, I should have asked this question. Just reach out, definitely. Our doors are always open. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, the question